I'm Dave Johnson, along with my good friend, Washington Wizards center, Jan Mahinmi. And this is so important, this conversation we're about to have, as the whole world really deals with racial injustice and police brutality. And as we want to make things better, this is action is so important. And that's part of the solution, along with what we are about to do. And that's communication. And communication is not only talking, but also listening. I need to listen better. We all need to listen to each other better, I would submit. And boy, it's just so great, first of all, to see Jan Mahinmi. I think at this time, it's great to see familiar faces and feel that connection of friendship. And Jan, before we get started on so many things to talk about, and we've got this video we're going to show that of a special day in a suburb of Dallas you were involved in that we can all learn a lot from. But just tell us how you're doing right now. I think a lot of folks would like to know.
I'm doing great. You know, I'm doing good. I'm doing as good as I could do in those crazy times. You know, it's not easy, but you know, health-wise, I'm good. My family is good, so I'm doing good, and I'm kind of right now in the mix of getting stuff ready to head back to DC. So I'm doing good.
And against all that, we're dealing with a lot of emotions, a lot of things going on in our country. I want to get to the Washington Wizards as players releasing a statement that, of course, was in the wake of the appalling death of George Floyd that is, I think, triggered the country and the world into a spasm of reflection on so many things. And the statement, the beauty of the statement, it really was 4 quotes. We will no longer tolerate the assassination of people of color in this country. We will no longer accept ineffective government leaders who are tone deaf. We will no longer accept the abuse of power from law enforcement, and we will no longer shut up and dribble. So that's what the players came up with. Take us through how the players and yourself came up with the statement that certainly has resonated with so many.
So on that particular statement, this was I have to give most of the credit to Bradley Beal, because he was really the leader when it came out, when it comes out to that specific statement. You know, we had talks between players about what was going on and what happened, and we wanted to say something that we felt like was us and how we felt and how we feeling, and you know. Brad came up with it. You know, it took a couple of back and forth, and it was just a great, you know, moment for all of us to get together and to come up with that. But on that specific statement, you know, I mostly want to give the credit to Brad, because he really initiated the talk between us.
But again, I mentioned 4 quotes, and I'm sure they're all quotes that all the players had thought about before, because they weren't just made up at that moment. It was almost like a collective thought process came together to come up with a response.
Yeah. You know, it's definitely come up from the top, you know, and, you know, we had a talk with that statement, and then a week later, I'm pretty sure, Dave, you saw the joint statement that the Wizards and the Mystics players came with. Same thing. It took a lot of back and forth between some of us at the Wizards and some of them with the Mystics. You know, to come up with something, you know, a strong statement. One more time, it's something that we feel like that represent us, something that we feel like need to be expressed. You know, and same type of deal. You know, same type of process, you know, where you get together and you talk, and you know, to me, throughout this process, you know, it's a tragedy, but it also gave us an opportunity for us, especially leaders of the Black community, to step up, you know, and to come together. And I felt like this is what happened in our organization. And I'm very proud of those statements, rather than the one that, you know, Wizards players put, but also the one that we jointly road with the Mystics. And it's a good start. It's a good start, but like you said, talking is good, but actions is better.
And you mentioned that, and that's I want to get to something. And through your I Am Foundation, your Jan Mahinmi Foundation, you're involved in so many things. But there's a video that we're sharing with people that captures an incredibly emotional day, or at least I was moved to a lot of emotions as I heard the heartfelt talks of yourself and police officers and police and a community of Wiley, Texas, which is outside Dallas. As fans know, you played there in Dallas for a couple of seasons, but you were in San Antonio,
Yeah.
and we just talked about action. It's as we can have this conversation, and as I said, this is part of the solution. You and I, you and everyone talking together. Yeah. But you were moved to action to go from San Antonio to Wiley, Texas, to
Yes.
be a part of a community event. To take us through that.
Yes. So I have to take you back like a week ago. On that day, last Saturday, I woke up and after being heavily involved with everything that was going on in DC, from afar, from being in San Antonio, Texas, I woke up like I felt like I needed to be in the streets, and I had some stuff that needed to be said, and I wanted to be with my people. So I decided to leave. Sorry. I decided to leave. I didn't know exactly how long I was going to be gone for, but to take you back, I woke up, I kissed my wife and my kids, told them what I wanted to do. Obviously, they understood, even though they were a little worried. And then I got on the road. And drove. It's a 4-hour drive, so nothing crazy. And went on and met up with King, the main guy at the nonprofit organization SLAP, and we got down to the streets. And the first stop was Dallas downtown. And there was a lot of people, a lot of powerful message. So to be part of that was very special. And like I told you, when I left, I honestly, I thought I was going to go, be in the streets, say what I have to say, and drive back. And it went from being in the streets, protesting, to meeting. I met this unbelievable human being, Sergeant Ira Carter. Wow, what a crazy coincidence that me and him ended up crossing paths. And so he invited me to the substation, South Dallas, and I had an incredible talk with him. It was him and 3 or 4 of his officers with him. And it was very diverse. And when I say diverse, is I had one white cop, it was Asian, it was South American, it was Black, and ourselves. And to attack these issues at different angles, it is very powerful. So we ended up talking till midnight at the station, and then I decided to stay. Luckily, my agent stays in Dallas, so I got to go and crash at his house for a little bit. And the very next morning, we took off. We took off for Wiley, Texas, and that's where me and Sergeant Carter was invited to speak with a bunch of other speakers, in front of hundreds of people. And same thing, this was, obviously we could get back in details, but this was a once in a life type of experience.
Well, and it is very powerful to watch the video of what happened that day in Wiley, Texas. And again, a very diverse group, Black and white and all ages coming together on this day in Wiley, Texas, which is chronicled in the video. But again, as we're just capturing what went through you. You're going to Dallas. You're not expecting to stay this long. You're
No.
having a conversation with police officers until midnight. And let me just back up to you. You really did feel moved to drive to Dallas. You'd
Yes.
never been a part of something. I think you share with me. You'd never really been a part of something like this before. What? Take me through that emotion, because it's one thing to feel the solidarity with the message. It's another thing to say, that's it. I have to be a part of the message.
Yeah. And that's it's kind of something that has to come from the heart. At some point, you have to listen, and something deep inside of me told me, like, go, just go. And I've been very touched by everything that's been going on. It's been a very painful process. So I had obviously sadness and some frustration and some anger. Me being African, and dealing with the same type of struggles and issues for so many years now. So I decided to go. And this ended up being one of the best decisions I've made in my life, because what I experienced was pretty amazing. And when I say that is, the emotion that then you feel when you're marching, when you're protesting, and you have 100 people behind you, with you, in front of you, and those type of emotion are very hard to describe. And same thing the next day in Wiley, Texas. Having this opportunity, to step up. It's something very special, because this is not what I'm used to, as far as being a basketball player. This is different. This is really about, leading, being an active part of your community. So this was a tremendous experience. And on my drive back, that Sunday night, I'll be honest with you, like, it was so many emotion going through me, because I didn't know if I wanted to cry. I didn't know if I wanted to. I was happy. It was emotionally drained, And once I got home, it kind of took me a few days. I want to say last Wednesday was probably the first day when I kind of got back to being myself again. But it was a lot on my mind, a lot.
So again, it's a Saturday that starts in your home, goes to Dallas, and continues all weekend. And I just wanted to, something you said, I wanted to pick up on, just in understanding your motivations. And you bring a great or interesting perspective, because, African, you from France. So as we deal with this globally, and this has turned into certainly, we've seen protests all around the world. So what part of that motivation, the again, appalling death of George Floyd, that's bad, but it's so much more in your lifetime that probably is going through you.
Yes, it's so much more of that. It's so much more of that. What we're dealing, it's unfortunate that, we have to have some tragedy like that to happen for us to really get in the streets and be in demand of change. But this is something that's been going on for a long time, and the fight that we have and the fight that I have, it's not so much about, white people or against the cops. This is not my fight. My fight is against the mindset. Whoever has that oppressing mindset, that's the fight that we've been fighting for many, many years. Rather, it's the white mindset of the oppressor, or any other color, any other races. That's the mindset. And same thing when we talk. Like, I had a great talk, obviously, with Sergeant Carter, but the fight is not against the cops. We need the cops. We need the police. In good times, in bad times. The fight is against the bad ones. And it comes back to the mindset, the mindset of who's wearing that uniform, and it is sad that it's 2020 now. halfway, and you still have people that have this oppressing mindset where they think that because of a color, they are better than another color of skin, you know. And not to say that we're going to eliminate, because it's always going to have, you're always going to have some people like that, but we have to make those people feel uncomfortable at all time, in anywhere, in any profession. You know, these type of behaviors are no longer going to be tolerated, you know. And this is one of the big talk that we had with Sergeant Carter, because, you know, sometimes it's the unpopular thing to do as a cop when you recognize that one of your teammate has that mindset. Are you going to call him out? Are you going to say something? And the unpopular thing to do is to say something, but most of the cops is not doing it. They stay quiet, and that's a problem, you know.
Well, you just hit on an important thing I wanted to get to, because it came up certainly in the event in Wiley, Texas, which just a wonderful day that you will see on the video through the IM Foundation and the SLAP movement that was going on that day in Wiley, Texas, as I think the police chief of Wiley, Texas was emphasizing, and this is a white gentleman, the police chief, you know, the culture needs to change of a mindset where you have something terrible like with George Floyd happening, and officers around him don't intervene. And as you said, Sergeant Ira Carter, an African-American police officer, was saying the same thing. It's a mindset. And he shared a story about that he's been pulled over before when he's not in his uniform, and he's treated differently. Then he tells him he's a police officer, and then suddenly he's treated in a whole different way with much more respect. As he pointed out, that mindset shouldn't exist. He shouldn't be treated differently initially just because of his skin color. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is exactly what we just talked about, you know, and that's where the fight is, you know, and that's why, to me, it's important to have talks with, you know, cops. It's important to get the story from different angles, because right now, and I just posted something on my Instagram, you have to be careful of the narrative. You know, whenever you watch the information, or whenever you watch the news, or you listen to radio, whatever the case, you have to be very careful of the narrative and the one-sided information you get, you know. So it's important to get both sides. It's important to get different angles, because, you know, the fight is not always what it looks like.
What you spent, those are hours you spent in the Dallas police station. It sounds like that Saturday.
Yeah.
So the conversation must have been, you know, it's so fascinating and lively. Can you share some insights from that you learned that night?
I mean, it was really good, because, you know, it came from different angles. So, you know, like in instance for Floyd, George, and his story, you know, every cops it's important also to hear it from them, for them to let us know on which side of the fight they're on, you know, and what would they have done being in that situation. And, you know, they started with simply telling us, like, this is an unacceptable behavior. At no point in their training, there is that type of behavior involved. At no point. They told us some insight as far as, if you arrest somebody and at any point of the altercation or whatever's happening, there's somebody calling for air or can't breathe, or the first move that they have to do is call for an ambulance. Rather that it's faking or it's true or false or whatever, you know. So to have your knee on somebody for more than 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes, and that somebody telling you that I can't breathe and you're not doing anything and you have your hands in your pocket, that's not even acceptable in any type of level. That's not even, this is, for them, it's like, even if you would look at it like, okay, this is, he was under arrest and, he fought for his life. This is at no point something that you should do, So is 100% wrong to that, even though we know that from the get-go. You don't have to be a cop to, understand their training to know that it's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong. But they was giving me technical, details that they go through as they go as part of their training, in that situation. And there's no way that him and the other them didn't do nothing. They are all in the same bag. They are all bad cops, and they all need to be removed. So to hear it from them, and to hear it, they all told us that this is unacceptable as a profession, but also as simply being a human being. Just watching that, it's really hard to watch it, and you cannot condemn this. And, this would have never happened in I want to say 99% of any other groups of cops. It's you need to hear it. You need to hear it. So we covered so many other stuff, and Sergeant Carter has so many stories, being a Black, Afro-American police officer, sergeant, and that he shared with me. I don't want to share everything because some of the stuff is real personal, but we got into some really, really good conversation, and it was very, I want to say, educative.
Wiley, Texas, a suburb of Dallas. Suddenly you're going there that day to be part of this day.
Let me go back a little bit. So, it was 4 ladies that put that peaceful protest together, and they knew King, the main guy at the slap movement, and knowing that I was in town, she had reached out to me, and at the same time, Sergeant Carter, and she wanted to know if we would be okay to come, the next day to be a part of that. It just didn't happen out the blue. Like, we were in touch Saturday, which is the day prior to the protest.
But having said that, it was when you left your home in San Antonio, that was not part of the plan.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know about it. I really knew about it like probably around 9 p.m. That Saturday night.
So then what were you expecting that day? And then, as we'll see on the video, it's just a wonderful kaleidoscope of people that are coming together and sharing messages. But what were you expecting going into that day?
So honestly, I had no expectation. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to go. I wanted to be there one more time. I felt like this was a call. So I wanted to be there, and I wanted to at least, if I didn't say much, I wanted to at least give a platform, to this gathering. So we get there, and I was expecting a little bit of people, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, gathering peacefully, and you have this list of speakers that are, from age 11 all the way till 70. So one more time is different angles, and all of them with a super meaningful, powerful message for the community. And this was strong. This was so strong. Like same thing. It was so emotional that to be a part of that. Um, that honestly, I felt honored to be a part of that. I felt like really like I was thankful. Like I was like, thank you for allowing me to be with you guys. Thank you for giving me your ears for a little bit, and it was just a great experience.
And as you mentioned, just all ages, and the Wiley Police Department was very
Yes.
much involved. As
Mhm.
again, I don't even want to call it. As I watched the video, they were not there as much for security as they were to also share their experiences and messages. And again, that's to your point where you were saying before. It's important to hear from them, especially in these circumstances and times.
Exactly. And as we know, we need to. This one of the fight that we need to take on is to bridge the gap between our communities and the police. So having the chief of Wiley and his team coming to this gathering was big because it's important to hear it from them. It's important for them to be with the community to answer some of those questions, and trying to install somehow some actions that are going to be a part of the change.
Hmm. And you mentioned, you watched the video, and I want to get your sense of. You also got a sense that just like you felt a call to be there, or it felt like those officers wanted to be there, not to do a job, but to be with their people, so to speak.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt too. And throughout this whole process, I've met a lot of surgeon, cops, and they all want to speak up. All the people that have been around, you know, they want to tell their side of the story too. You know, and they're not all bad. There is the bad one, but they're not all bad. So for me and concern, I'm just talking for myself and my platform. I do want to show both sides. I do want to give a fair opportunity for both sides to speak up. So this is part of the conversation.
And as you mentioned, so many messages, and they all moved you. Was there any particular theme that resonated with you, or whether you're
Yes, definitely. This lady, I forgot her name, but she's a young black lady that got a full ride to SMU. She's the big school in Dallas, and she was really moving. Like she really got into some of her own experience that she's been through as a black girl going to a college that is mostly white, and what she had to deal with. And also she had a strong message for the black community and the black sisters and brothers, um, upcoming, um, that might be a little confused. um, it, she was probably the one that moved me the most, because first she came with no speech, nothing was prepared, so everything came from the heart, and her delivery was very raw, and I loved it. And I talked to her briefly after the gathering, and she's a bright lady, and she's definitely part of the change, and we need more people like that. And this is one of the fight that I have is, I want to take on this fight where especially black leaders come back to their community and give back, not only give back but educate, because it's a lot that needs to be said and done, and we could do it as a community, and so so often, man, we are, I want to say, quick, when we're successful, to leave and to build something else, and at times we never come back. to where it all started. And it's very important for us, and especially the younger generation, to get inspired, to be educated. And it's important to have a conversation. And it's not only with the youth, it's also with the parents. It's also with the, young adult. So, I want to take on this fight. I want to do my job. I want to do my part. But, this has been a lifetime type of experience.
A lifetime of experience, and now you realize, or you've always realized, the importance of that connection. What are some of the messages you think are important to get across to parents, to younger people, to help to move it forward? Are there certain elements?
Yes, I mean, it's so many, but like to not make it too long, we touched on voting, and to understand how these societies is working, and how to really voice your opinion. There is not that many ways to go about it, and you have to vote. So we couldn't say it enough. I think everybody that spoke that day was touching at some point through the speech about voting and the importance, and not only voting for presidential. That is, voting for presidential is the icing on the cake. It's so many other ways, and I mean not other ways, but other.
It's in your neighborhoods.
Exactly. It's so many times you have to vote and you have to be involved, and that's one of the fight. I want people, especially in my community, to be a little bit more, not a little bit more, but a lot more active in their community. I'm not saying to be an activist, but I'm saying to be active, and it starts at home. If you live in a neighborhood and in a house, and it starts with your HOA, get involved, go and vote, go and represent yourself, and there's so many other elections that needs to take place. I mean, that take place, the timing, who you voting for. You have to educate yourself on all these things. So voting was like one of the priority, or if it was the major message, said on that day, because this is, you're talking about action, you're talking about change, then that number needs to go up. We need to see the percentage of the people in our community go up, So this was a message. This was one of the strong message. And then we also need to find ways where we could hold ourselves accountable for change, as far as, police brutality, and how do we keep the police in check? How do we keep our community in check? And how we make those numbers goes up? How do we check? How do we do our part? And how do we hold ourselves accountable? So there's different ways to go about it. And those were part of the discussion too. And just the awareness in general, the awareness of everything that happened in the past, because this is nothing new. One more time, this is nothing new. And this is many, many years of struggle. So you've got to know your past, you've got to know your history, and you've got to, at some point, acknowledge it and then move, understanding what happened in the past. And it's not okay no more to take the passenger seat now. It's time for us to drive.
Oh, and I think that plays along with, as we heard, officers talk about, it's important to change the mindset. You don't just sit back and let things happen. When you see something that's not right, you get involved no matter what the consequences. And Sergeant Ricardo also had a great quote from that day in Wiley, Texas. He said he always tells his kids, in life, 10% of your life is what happens to you. 90% is what you do about it. And it sounds like that's basically what you're talking about, that you know your past, you know what's happened to you, but then the 90% is how you go about doing something.
Yes. Yes, and this is such a powerful message, and same thing here with my daughters. I'm very big on telling them where they come from, in our history, and they're very interested in that. And that being said, now, you know, what you guys going to do is very important. So this message is strong, and I'm doing the same here in my house.
Yeah, you talk about leadership. Well, as a family, what kind of questions are your daughters asking, or what? Because there's probably a lot of parents that are going to watch this wonder, what do I tell my children right now? Because this is not easy times.
Those are not easy time. You have to, you've not forced, because I don't want to say it's forced, but you have to have tough conversation right now in the house, especially if you're Black. There is conversation that my 4-year-old shouldn't have at 4 years old that we having, because it is the reality of what we live in right now, the world we live in right now. And they are very curious. And the fact that my wife, she's Native American, you know um she understand, because if you know your story, the Native American people have had their share amount of struggle too. And um you know me being an African from Benin, some of the struggle that me and my wife share are the same. And the way we raise our kid is, number one, they have to know their history. They have to know where they come from. And we're kind of brutally honest with some of those subjects. We tell it how it is. We tell it like it was. And some questions we answer right away. Some we have to think about it. Because they are 8, 4, and 2 years old. The baby, obviously, she's not really aware of what's going on, but the 4 years old and the 8 years old, they pretty much know exactly what's going on. And when I see my daughter, she has a little TikTok account that's only for family, and she changed her profile to George Floyd, I can't breathe, picture. That's to tell you like how she's affected by that. So we have to have talks, and we have to tell her, hey, listen, this is the mindset that we're fighting against, and this is where it came from. Now, this is where we trying to be. This is where we're trying to go. Those are the talks that we have constantly in the house. What do you need to do to be the change? How do you interact with your kids, your friends at school? What are your behavior? We don't preach none of that nonsense. We don't see colors. And that being said, you don't see colors, you might not see colors, but other kids do. So when they do, and they might say something to you, how do you react to it? Those are all the talks that we have to have at the house. And some of them are good, some of them not easy, but it comes with it nowadays.
Perhaps is that maybe a baseline for understanding, as you just described the conversations you have with your kids? My parents, because I was white, never had to have with me. And so is that part of it, that people have to understand that African Americans or others are having conversations that they never experienced as youth, and that's where it all starts.
Yes, and that's why sometimes it's hard for somebody that's white to really relate. You can never really relate to how I feel, because some of the stuff never happens to you. So you can only go based on what you hear. So I've had many episodes. My wife, my kids, even my middle one, she had, you know, a little incident at school, you know, that we squashed real quick. But it is what it is, you know. They are exposed to it. And we constantly have to explain to them why, you know, and how to get past this, and how to move forward, and now to fall in the trap of hatred, you know, or the trap of, okay, you don't like me because I'm black, so I'm not gonna like you because you white. This is not how, you know, this fight is going to go in my house, you know. So, you know, it is what it is. But the talks, especially I want to say the last few weeks, you know, like everything that we watched. We don't watch a lot of TV, but when we watch, you know, we watch some powerful movies. Books, same thing. The books that we reading at night right now are, you know, about Rosa Parks, about, you know, MLK, and, you know, they need to know, they need to understand the history behind it.
And again, bringing full circle, that's maybe as I listened to you talk, why that weekend in Wiley, Texas, or in the whole Dallas area was so emotional and impactful, because you had people coming together and having these
Yes.
difficult conversations together and peacefully. And that,
Yeah.
just watching that video inspires you that there's hope for better days.
Yes, and this is also why I did it, and why I want to, you know, I wanted to share. I wanted to utilize my platform the best way possible, because, you know, you see a lot of stuff on TV, and sometimes, you know, you don't get to see other stuff that are equally as good, are equally as important, but they don't get really the coverage, you know. And I felt like, you know, what I experienced, um, Dallas, but also Wiley, Texas, was powerful, you know, just to be able to have conversations, you know, different angles, and in a peaceful way. Because after, you know, we had the gathering, we also did a march, and it was hand on hand, and it was very peaceful, and it was everybody. It was nobody fighting. It was, you know, it was very peaceful, and I felt like the message was strong, you know. So as I'm looking at what's going on in DC, and I think it's great, you know, and I'm all for it, I also wanted to show what a little city like Wiley, Texas is doing, which was big time to me. So, you know, it gave me a great opportunity, and I'm glad that I'm able to, you know, share it with you, Dave, and share it with the world, you know, through my platform.
Oh, because it's it's energizing, because you watch it and you feel like, all right, you know what, we can take this as more than one day and move it forward. And as you just said earlier, that it took until Wednesday to probably fully emotionally recover from it in some ways. I mean, what was that drive back to San Antonio like for you? I can't begin to imagine what was going through your mind.
It's so much emotion, like, you know. And like me, I'm not a very emotional guy, you know. You could ask around, like, you know, but for one of the first time, I didn't know how to feel about myself. You know, I was mad, I was angry, I was happy, because I was happy that I had spent some time with my people, and I felt like I felt the energy, but I was also emotionally drained. Like, I felt like I wanted to cry. It was it was emotional. It was emotional. So I got home late that Sunday, and I wasn't really talking much because there was so much going on in my mind. So, you know, I have a great family. You know, I have a great family. My wife, my kids are amazing. So, you know, the next few days they were kind of able to, you know, kind of get my mind a little bit off it. And like I said, like, it's not until Wednesday that I kind of felt like, okay, I finally digest everything that happened in those 48 hours in Dallas.
Not saying it's going to be easy at all, but given what's going on, what you experienced the 48 hours in Dallas, do you have real hope for change, that things
I
will be
do.
better?
I do, because there is little, like I said, like there is action that you could actually do to be the change, you know, and it's going to take one person at a time. But myself, I'm committed to be part of the change. I'm committed 100% to do whatever I can myself to do it. So, and I know there is more people out there, you know, and like I said, you know, voting is one. But then there's other action that needs to be that need to take place, and not only they need to take place, we need to put like action in place where you could hold yourself accountable for it. And a few weeks from now, you know, you could look at yourself in the mirror and be like, did I do that? Okay, I'm about to get on this call. You know, what can I say about myself? You know, so I think that the change is coming. I think that what's going on right now, it's very important. It's very powerful. It's very meaningful. And I think that for my generation, this is a turning point. I honestly think that it is a turning point, you know. And I obviously we'll see in time, but I believe that what's going on right now is something that's so big that we are witnessing a turning point in the change of this world.
Well, and you mentioned another key word, accountability, and also we need to be accountable of ourselves, and and that gets back to Sergeant Ira Carter's 10% of your life is what happens to you, and the other 90% is what you do. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Jan, while we have this time together? We've shared so much today, but I didn't want to leave you with feeling like you hadn't said what you wanted to get across. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, for whoever is watching, you know, whoever has the opportunity to lead, this is the time. This is the time. You know, this is right is right and wrong is wrong. You know, there's not too much to be said. You know, do what's right and be the change. Be the change you want to be. Be a part of it. You know, and for my community, I can't stress it enough. You know, it's time for us to take charge. Not to say that we don't in certain areas, but it's time for us to come together, be the strongest community, you know, and take charge, drive, no more passenger seat, no more watching, you know, make the effort, educate yourself, pass it along, be together, and let's make this change together.
There's another word, time, and that means every moment's important in how you spend that time. And Jan, I thank you so much for the time today, because um, it was a wonderful weekend you had in Texas, but it's not just about one weekend. It's about, as you said, going forward in time and change. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Dave. And we'll talk later.
Yeah. Zach, you got